Hello, everybody. We are live on location at Oak and Aether with Christopher Potter. Hello, Christopher.
Hello.
How you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Very well on this sort of a gray, crummy, ugly.
It's a perfect December day. Come on now.
I guess it is for a December day. It is definitely a December day.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what Oak and Aether is for people who've never heard of it.
So Oak and Aether is a metaphysical shop or spiritual supply store, if the word metaphysical sort of escapes you. I like to think of us a little bit more sort of occult knowledge base, less. I don't know. We're more into the deeper end of the pool of learning in the spiritual studies.
You're not very evil. Is this an evil store?
Oh God, no! Heck no.
I guess, sorry, just to jump in there, if we're going to go off in that direction, yeah, because I think there is
Perception of the occult being a little dark and evil.
well, but also there is like a connection almost directly between the occult and Satanism for a lot of people.
Yes.
So maybe dispel some of those myths if you can.
Okay. Well, first, yes, Satanism is a branch of the occult, but it is not the sum total, and not all occult knowledge is satanic. So the word occult basically just means hidden. So occult knowledge means hidden knowledge. And an occult store or an occult, a place like mine is a place where you can seek out those alternative forms of spiritual knowledge. Is it like, are we evil? No. Am I a Satanist? No. Do I have literature that would be attractive to someone of that persuasion? Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's so much more than that, and as far as the word occult and occult practices getting, the satanic rap, if you will, I think that has a lot to do with just like sensationalism, high drama, the human compulsion to look over there, and it's just, it's catchy, it's buzzy, it's exciting. So it's very easy to kind of, just sort of slap that sticker on it and have it be that. And then, of course, can't discount the influence of religious power and control over, what is considered acceptable spiritual teachings, and how that has affected society as a whole for centuries. It wasn't that long ago where, the priest of the church was the only one you were allowed to talk to as far as matters of God went, at least here in the Western world and a lot of Western Europe. And in the last 150 years particularly, we've started to break away from that and started, as a society and as individuals, exploring forms of thought in regard to divinity outside of those sort of common channels.
So how did you first get interested in this sort of stuff? And you are more than welcome to take the mic from my hand, so I'm not holding it in front of you the whole time.
I think it started with asking, those bigger theological, cosmological questions that I didn't like the answers to in those common channels. And then, you basically start out, you ask the questions, no one can answer. Of course, like I said, sensationalism and drama attracts you to the more flashy things like, rebellious Satanism, stuff like that. And then you look into it and you're like, oh, that's not it either. And then, Eastern mysticism popped up and, started looking at that. And it's like, okay, there's some answers there. Still doesn't make sense. 25 plus years into this, and I'm still asking questions. I don't think I've ever received the answers I've been looking for. But that's not really what it's about anymore. Maybe early in my life, I really had to, where's the answer? And now it's more just like what's this? What's this? Every time I find something new that provokes a new question, I just, what's this? And I investigate.
It keeps the interest going.
Oh, 100%.
The answers were right there in front of you this whole time, and
I think it would become boring, right? Like, the quest for knowledge, the quest for, conscious evolution, I think that's a part of, like, the human condition, really. It's it's an exploration. It's it's my passion, almost my obsession, if you will. A long time ago, I realized that I was compelled to understand why mankind needed to understand God, so much so that we've created thousands upon thousands of religious, philosophies and deities to match, throughout all time, culture and art and language, obviously influencing the direction of these things, and how, there's a lot of branches to, it's a really big tree. And it's been fascinating to me to the point where I said it's almost been an obsession. And then, of course, I had to build a shop to satisfy my need, and then also my want to share, right? Like, I really feel like, if you have spiritual inclinations or, the need to investigate, spiritual thought and, psychological paradigms that just kind of don't fit into the norm, well, where do you go to investigate those? And I feel like Oak and Aether is sort of a doorway into that. At least that's kind of what we want it to be. Yeah.
So as far as like Oak and Aether as a doorway into sort of exploring those things, is there in your mind maybe a particular book or a particular like path to go down that is sort of almost like babies first, or a dummy's guide to
Occult for dummies.
Yeah, kind of, right?
There's no one, like, there's a lot of beginner books out there, and I think it really starts with how are you attracted to spiritual thought forms? Do you prefer a more formalized ecclesiastical setting? Do you prefer a more nature-based sort of animistic setting? And then from there, you would, choose a book of, introductory knowledge. But is there one book? No, people have tried that. And that's why we've got so many schisms in religious thinking. There's no one book. Do we have those stepping stone books for a lot of different ideologies or potential ideologies? Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think that I've done enough study and spent enough time in this where if you sort of tell me your interests when you come in here investigating, I can help steer you in the right direction to, like I can be take the symbol of the Hermit of the Tarot card, for instance. It's an old man with a lantern who's like pointing. He's like, your path is that way, Like, I'd like to think myself having the knowledge to be able to do that for you in the beginning. Right. And then it's basically up to you how far down your particular rabbit hole you want to go.
Is that like a question?
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Complicated question. The short answer is yes, but not, I think, in the way that it's commonly perceived. So moving into sort of a scientific outlook for a second, we know that energy is pervasive. It has no beginning, it has no end, it can only change form, function. I think consciousness, or the soul, is nothing more than energy. So when we expire this vessel, because matter is limited to, its decay rate, that conscious energy, that little spark of us that isn't, expirable, that is indestructible, yes, it moves to a different form. What that looks like, oh man, there's thousands of years of people telling, what they think the afterlife is. Do I think there's been, many avatars in this world that have contained my little piece of eternity? I don't know. I don't think if there are, it is the way like some of these like, I've lived this kind of life, reincarnation.
Therefore, I have to be a bug now or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's different. Like, if we are, essentially all individualized pieces of the grand pervasive consciousness, or the God complex or the Godhead experiencing itself, well, why would you repeat the same experience, right? Like, you're going to have to, dip your toes in different parts of the water. So, short answer, yeah, I believe in reincarnation. Do I think I, lived the life of some grand general or, a priest or a seer or, coffee bean, roaster? No, I don't know.
Golden retriever, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, who knows?
I probably like choked on a sandwich in a former
It
life.
could have been amino acid on a space rock, like in a completely different
That
galaxy.
could have been fun, though.
Like, who knows? Who knows what that little indestructible piece of, my eternity is? Who knows what it was for you or for you? Like, these
Well,
are
we're all made up of so many pieces too that like some of those pieces could have come from other things too, right? We're not necessarily all just the one piece.
Well, that is 100% true. So the atoms that comprised your physical form when you entered this world left your body a long time ago.
He's also made from like star pieces and particles.
Yeah.
We're all-
Yeah, star poop.
We're all stardust. Everything is stardust, to oversimplify it, right? It's the prime materia of the universe. We're carbon-based life. It's carbon-based everything around us, right? Like it's one of the basic building blocks. And like I said, those atoms that comprised your original form when you were first birthed into this reality, into this universe, those left your body a long time ago. Those little building blocks, they're gone. You've adopted new stuff through sustenance, the shedding of skin, the birth and destruction of your cellular form. Like that's gone.
That sounds very dramatic. The birth and destruction of my cellular form.
I guess. Like I never really thought about it as dramatic, but like it's kind of what it is.
I like it though. I mean, it's not a criticism. I think I like thinking about myself as being born and destroyed constantly.
Well, you're a little microcosm of the grand scheme, right? Like we have stars in existence that we know were birthed, and eventually one day they'll nova, and then they'll give way to new stars, and there's nebulas or cell clusters, right? Like it's the same thing inside our body. We don't perceive it because it's if we were conscious of all of those things, like computing power, I don't think we have. And science has only really started to grasp these things in the last few centuries. But we look at our cellular structure and we look at our cosmic structure, and there's a lot of similarity there. There's even an ancient adage, an axiom: as above, so below. The old mystics knew, they just couldn't articulate it.
Where does that originate? The as above, so below.
Originate, I don't know, but the axiom is classically thought of as a Hermetic axiom, one of the Hermetic Principles. So there's
And sorry, not to overcomplicate things, but what is a Hermetic Principle?
a Hermetic Principle. So these are kind of like isms, if you will. They're not really definable, and they sort of permeate or are pervasive through thought and existence. So as above, so below, so within, so without. It's that is a how do I articulate this? I don't really know. That's telling you that no matter what pattern you see in the external world, you can find it in the internal world. Right. If you see one in the internal world, you can also find a similarity in the external world. Then there is the axiom or the principle of cause and effect. Well, there are scientific ways to understand cause and effect, right? But yeah, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, or not necessarily opposite, but there is a reaction of same potency to the original action. Then there's polarity, especially the way we live our lives. Like humans are pretty dialectic, right? We're either one or the other. Pick your topic. Kind of lost my thought for a second.
It's all good.
I'm drowning in all these deep thoughts. So can we talk about something easier? Like, what do you sell here besides books?
So besides books, we sell a lot of the tools or accoutrements, or even just the iconography that helps people express and live their spiritual practice. So we have a pretty decent selection of crystals if you are into energy healing or just have a really cool fascination with geology. We have a wide range of dried herbs that are applied in a lot of, holistic medicines, but then also in certain forms of earth-centric or animistic forms of paganism. And then, like I said, art and icon to help you sort of focus in on your particular thought frames, your meditations.
Can I just show everyone?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Have a quick little
okay, I'll scan.
tour of the.
There's actually a tattoo shop behind those doors. I don't know if you guys knew that.
We have tattoo artists, yes.
Okay, and then there's jewelry there. Do you sell Todd too?
I'm a very limited edition.
Yeah. You gotta make a good offer for that. Okay. And then over here at this table, what is that?
There's a lot of dried herbs and some handmade soaps for ritual use. Help you sort of focus in on different aspects of energy and meditation. There's one to help cleanse your, so all soaps are made for cleansing, but there's one to cleanse your spirit. There's one to focus your intention, to help you sort of break through thought frames. Clean your energy, but different methods and ways to do so.
Clean your butt, clean your energy.
And if you can do it with the same piece of soap, that's honestly best.
Yeah, it works.
Look at this amazing display table.
So that is our Yule tree here at Oak and Aether, and on it we've decorated it with some dehydrated orange and cinnamon. These are old symbols of sun and rejuvenation and abundance, as well as ginger goats or Yule bucks, a Yule goat. So that's an old northwestern European tradition where you would, particularly Scandinavian, where you hang a Yule goat on your neighbor or family's door during the season as kind of like a hide and seek, sort of a pass around game.
Elf on the shelf.
Kind of like Elf on the Shelf.
Interesting.
But a way
Goat on the something.
Yeah, goat on the wreath. It doesn't. It's not quite
rhyme,
as doesn't rhyme. It's not as catchy, but I think it's cooler.
Yeah.
The goats that we have on there, they are for sale, and these ones are also burnable sacrifices if you are into having bonfires during your Yule or Solstice season.
Sorry, you can burn this guy?
Not that guy. That one's for me. But yes, so straw goats have been burned as sort of effigies, in place of the real thing, as a sacrifice to older gods, to renew your oaths, bring prosperity to your family, that kind of stuff. Some people still do, goat sacrifices, but they don't do it needlessly. It's usually the feast that you eat at the end of the celebration, right? And some people will keep the skull. Yeah. Some people will. I think it's. I'm not going to misspeak. I don't remember which one of the Scandinavian countries it is. I think it's Sweden, but they do like a 14 or 15 foot tall straw Yule goat every year, and then they burn it, which I think is absolutely crazy. I know that they did do a hiatus from that for a little while because people were burning it prematurely before the actual celebration. There's always going to be someone who spoils the fun for everybody else.
Why do you think these ancient gods liked burnt animals so much?
Well, if you are a sentient thing of a non-corporeal state and you want to enjoy, the fruits of the material world, how are you going to ingest these things, right? Like, you can't just bury it. You can't just you have to sort of turn it into a close state as etheric form as possible. And for us, that's, smoke or vapor, right? So I think that's why, we decided that that's how we would feed our deities, is by offering them burnt things or vaporized things.
And we can see, some of it drifting.
That's right. And we can see it. Of course, if there was ever an auspicious weather event to coincide with these sacrifices, it would just confirm for people that the gods were pleased.
Or angry if it was lightning.
Yeah, or angry.
Did not like the goat this year.
Actually, if Thor or Thunor was a part of your pantheon of deities, if there was a lightning event during one of your sacrifices, that was he is pleased.
Oh, I guess it would be in that context, for sure, yeah.
For him, yes, that would be pleased. But, if you were worshiping a god that was, say, all about, sunshine and rain and a thunderstorm showed up, took away all your sunshine and blew everything apart with big gusts of wind and, large lightning bolts and thunder, well, I think your god is displeased.
Exactly. It's all about knowing the god and knowing what his MO is.
Yeah, exactly. What are their preferences? What are their powers? Their bailiwicks of station, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's and there's, for all of the traditions that are out there, whether they're monotheistic or polytheistic, there's a million and one ways of offering your sacrament to your matron deity.
So you were mentioning Yule, which I guess we're either in now or about to be in. I don't know exactly when that is, but can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Yule, which I guess we're sort of in the season now, although we're not like officially at the mark of Yule. That's marked by the winter solstice. Okay. And then traditionally, we have the 12 days of Christmas. Well, the 12 days of Christmas were the 12 days of Yule before the mass conversion of Christendom throughout Northern Europe. And if you're like myself and my family, we came from Christian roots, but we don't identify as Christians. We don't practice Christian things, but we still celebrate Christmas or the holiday season. We've just sort of taken it back to what our ancestors did. And for my family, we make straw and ginger goats that we actually do burn at our little bonfire every year. We keep a piece of our bonfire, our Yule log, to reignite the following years. It's another tradition.
I just said,
So, yeah, Yule it's still the holiday season, still the winter season. It's marked by the solstice, carries for 12 days afterwards, or traditionally it does. There are some cultures that only carries for 3-5 days. Some say it's a couple of days before the solstice is the actual build-up, 2 to 3 days beforehand. The nuances were very much, regional, and then now it's all kind of been pushed together into, one sort of amount.
Friday.
No, that's commercialism. I don't think there's any sort of spiritual framework or value to slaving yourself out for a 30% deal.
I would say that does feel maybe like a modern spiritual concept.
I would term it as satanic.
Perhaps. I don't disagree with that. That's fair.
It's satanic if they claim that there's a sale going on, but then you look and it's the same price as it was a week before. That's mean.
Yeah, we don't like that.
You don't do that at your store, I bet.
No. Actually, we don't really participate in the standard commercial holiday sale schema. We do offer discounts and sales at different times. We did not do a Black Friday. We don't do that. There were some items, coincidentally, that were on sale on our website during Black Friday, but it had nothing to do with it. We did not advertise it, did not push it as such. They were just things that, hey, no one's looked at these. Let's put them on sale. And we put them on sale, I think, a week or two beforehand, and they're still on sale now, and Black Friday is gone. So, it's sort of a juxtaposition. It's a weird place to be in as someone who is a real, I'm a shop, or Oak and Aether is a business, and retail store, and I don't really like a lot of the capitalist push. But
it's so hard, isn't it?
It is, but I realize that that's kind of the mechanism of the world. It's how our economy works. It's how we make our livings. Well, I just wanted to do it my way, right?
Thank you. I have a question. You are a store, but I think you do more than just that. You also hold events.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So we have in the past, this year's been a little tricky. We've had a pretty busy year in our personal life. My wife and I had a baby, so thank you. So we haven't been able to host as many events this year as we have in years past, but we've hosted sound healings, moon meditations. We've had lecturers come in to talk about occult literature in pop culture, or the occult in pop culture literature, I should say. Very recently, during Samhain or Halloween, we did an ancestor veneration, ancestor calling ritual here that was hosted by myself. That one definitely, to the uneducated eye, may have looked satanic.
Which would have been cool to see.
It would have been cool to see. However, given that it was sort of a open to the public thing, I don't think, I couldn't have everyone sign waivers and do the TV thing. But there are some. So on our website, on our social media, you will see pictures of that event. And like I said, to the uneducated, to maybe the ultra religious, that would look satanic. You have effigies of death. The performers, myself and my two friends, we're wearing robes. stuff like that. But how else are you supposed to call your ancestors? You don't call your past ancestors.
Can't use an iPhone.
No, you can't use an iPhone. So what are you going?
You don't wear pajamas. You have to dress up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like I'm sorry, but the pageantry of ritual is part of the fun. It really is.
I do agree. Yeah.
Like I often, while I participate in it, I often mock it a little bit. Like ceremonial magic, there's aspects of it where it seems so ostentatious, where you're just kind of like, what is going on? But then when you're in the performance of it, when you're in the drama of it, all of these extra things really help, it creates that liminal space in the mind, right? Like it really does sort of, bring the thought frame into tangible existence. And if all magic is just applied psychology, well, how else best to change your reality and your thought frame unless you bring it also into your physical world? And you do this through dressing up, through symbol, through specialized furniture, the appropriate seasonal decorations. Like decorating a Christmas tree is still very much an occult ritual.
That's very fair, yeah.
Is it?
Absolutely.
I know that.
So the evergreen tree, symbol of eternal life, darkest time of the year. Obviously, yes, as we cut the tree down and bring it into our home, we've secured its death, which we often overlook that, but it is supposed to be a symbol of eternity or a symbol of permanence in the hardest times. And then we light candles, little miniature suns to bring the light into our darkest time of the year. Even the most orthodox form of religious thinking and ritual is still occulted in its nature, because the general public who watch these things, the parishioners in the pews, they don't know all the reasons why the priests and the deacons are doing it, because it's a specialized teaching that is given to some. Yes, upon request, you can go and obtain these professions, but it is still an occulted teaching, and you're just trusting the person who is leading these things to be doing it for your benefit versus your detriment. You're allowing an intermediary between you and what you perceive to be deity.
Interesting. So you're better off just doing it yourself, perhaps.
I'm of that opinion. Yeah. My opinion is my opinion. Obviously, people out there, they express their religious and spiritual views however they want, and that's totally cool, so long as all involved are consenting and there's full disclosure. You do what you will. You do you.
Good policy.
Yeah, it's a great policy. It's apply to all aspects of your life, right? Full disclosure, full consent, done. Personally, yeah, I think why pick an intermediary, right? There's nothing that needs to stand before you and what you perceive to be the Godhead, right? You don't have to be specially trained in some formal Orthodox ecclesiastical way, or even in an informal, off the beaten trail, witchcrafty way, right? You don't need formal training. You can literally just sit, be silent, think about what it is that draws you, and in that moment, in that little space of thought, you are creating connection, right?
I was just wondering if there's scams out there that deal with the occult, and do they ever just ask for money from you to
The same way televangelists do, maybe.
yeah
Yes. Unfortunately, and this is kind of a real sad thing, in the world of spiritual knowledge, spiritual practice, and then even in not here, but places that offer up tool and accessory for your spiritual practice, you'll find charlatanism. It's just there. There's always a snake oil salesman who's trying to tell you that this will cure your ails, or this will break, and they're doing it for the dime, not for your benefit. Whenever people come to me seeking an answer, first thing I tell them is, I don't have your answer, right?
it's within you. Your answer is within you.
It's you can have my ear, and I will do my best to, I'm a completely an unqualified spiritual counselor. I have no training in these things other than the time invested into my craft. But I'm grateful that a lot of people in this community have sort of sought out this space, as well as me in that. That trust has been given. And I do my best to just sort of steer people in the direction where they can find their own answers, solve their own problems. But yeah, like, is there a scam out there for every spiritual field? Oh, absolutely. And we can start with tithing.
Heck yeah.
For those who don't know, tithing is when you're a part of an official religious organization and they insist that a certain percentage of your money goes to them every year, regardless of your state of income. And I find that to be hugely disrespectful of a spiritual quest and a spiritual life. I think
Money should never be a part of spiritualism. Money should never.
well, owning this shop, I can't say that. I have chosen
Just occasionally part
that's
of it.
different.
like I have chosen the expression of having a metaphysical store as my livelihood.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I won't I'm not going to reach my hand into your pocket and tell you some lies just so that you'll spend more money here.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, I have on more than one occasion definitely steered people away from spending money because they're not going to get what they're looking for by, buying 3 candles, buying a book, like I'm not going to craft you a spell to, bring back your ex-lover or to make you
Aww.
like that is hocus pocus. Like while I think you are capable of crafting these spells and putting these intentions forward into the universe, there's also a mundane aspect. You also have to apply the regular work to having these things happen. You can't just, I'm not going to, you can't be like, well, can you like make me this? And I'm not going to, no, that's not how it works.
You don't hand out Band-Aids for people's wounds.
No, not at all. Now, that being said, will we sell you spell kit templates? Yes. We have in stock right now, we have a home protection spell kit that has a railway spike in it, a little bit of horseradish root, a guide to a ritual or a suggestion that you can perform for yourself.
Can you show us what you're talking about?
Yeah, hang on one sec.
I wonder how much it costs.
I don't know.
I don't know what to get my mom for Christmas.
Well, see, that's something I was going to, touch on as we were getting into the subject of spending money and Yule. It's time for gift giving. What are maybe some common gifts that people might come here seeking out?
Well, in this shop, within these walls, the best gifts that we have are, thoughtful books that you can give to someone so they have something, nice to cozy up with on a cold winter's night kind of thing. Obviously, the crystals or little handmade or hand-procured
So this is the
item like this. So this is our railway spike ritual kit. Its contents are a candle, an iron spike, some bay leaves, and some dried horseradish root.
And so what do you do with that?
The short of it is you take this iron spike out and on your property, you hammer it into the ground while lighting the candle and burning the horseradish as a baneful herb to push away all negative energies and negative thought frames, and then the bay leaf as a cleansing and restorative herb to sort of bring balance back into yourself and to your thought frames. Now, how the ritual that we've templated in here goes... we don't like to give you like specific words or mantras. We sort of give you a set of steps. And I've always insisted, if you're using a templated ritual, the words that you're going to speak, and I always think you should vocalize your intentions when performing spiritual acts of any kind, must be yours. They can be as complicated or as simple as you like, but they must come from within you. That's how you're going to drive your intention and your power into the mundane act of hammering the iron spike into the ground, right? Like, you can hammer an iron spike in and be like, this sets a barrier. No one, no bad energies or no unwanted relatives can come during the holiday season, like.
You have to be specific.
Yeah, definitely be specific. Fine print on everything in life, including your spiritual intentions. So yeah, this is one of the things that we craft and create.
Now, was that based on a traditional ritual, or is that something you came up with yourself?
So there are different rituals that use iron nails or railway spikes from different traditions. You can find them in voodoo, hoodoo. You can find them in traditional or eclectic witchcraft. They all look a little differently. Sometimes you're not hammering the iron spike into the ground. Sometimes you're hammering it. Well, in the act of hammering, even if it's just a little craft hammer, right? But the actual act of hammering is a part of the ritual, right? Like, sometimes you're hammering it into a candle and letting the candle burn through and then having the iron spike fall out. Sometimes you're hammering it into a box that contains all of the things that you were trying to get rid of in your life. And this way you're sealing it shut.
Iron spikes seem more important than I realized.
They have their place. They do have their place in...
Does it have to be specifically like a certain type of metal? Could it be any type of steel or?
Honestly, I think adaptation is key to a lot of spiritual practices. Yes, some of the scholars of old and some of the foundationary texts on this stuff are very insistent upon certain types of iron, certain types of copper at certain times a day, and if you want to go that route, and it empowers you, by all means. But if you, let's say you don't have access to just a pure iron spike, but you've got galvanized nails in your woodshed, well, that's going to work too, right? It's the symbolic act that is driving the power, that is driving the intention. It's not the literal ingredients of the ritual.
Because I know like certain crystals and gems have energy attached to it, so I thought maybe certain...
That's true to a degree. So all things have a vibration, right? Iron and steel, or ferrous metals all have a certain vibration. Same with crystals. Certain types of quartzes vibrate differently than calcites. Jaspers, like all these things, they have their own resonance. And there are ways to sort of employ this resonance differently. But you kind of want to try and stay, like if something is representative of a certain thing, you don't want to apply it to, say, its polar opposite.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to make things harder. But, you can adapt its usage within a certain scope. And like I said, ferrous metals, it doesn't have to be a pure iron. Galvanized nail is still a ferrous metal, right?
Just for me personally, I hate plastic. I hate plastic items, plastic chairs. Like, this has a different feel to me. Like, I feel like a king in this chair. I don't know. That's just a me thing. I like natural elements and wood, stone, metal, and that's just how I do my art. And it just feels better. So that's kind of why I ask that. Because I can't imagine you using like a plastic peg in a ritual like that. I don't know. I'm just so anti-plastic. That's it.
For a ritual like that, I don't think plastic would serve you. But you know what? Like I said, adaptation. If that's the tool you have accessible to you, then and you feel you need to perform that, then by all means, work with what you have. Always work with what you have and work from your instincts. But I similarly, like you, appreciate more natural things. When I'm crafting my ritual objects, I try to use, to the best of my ability,
as natural as possible.
As natural as possible. I try very hard to fabricate things from raw state.
Yeah.
And if I can't do that, if it's beyond my skill level or my what I have for tools in my little craft shop, then I'll augment. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Right. Find something that comes close to the purpose you're looking for, and then adapt it. Change it so that it fully fits the purpose you're trying to achieve. And that's a huge part of this, right? Adaptation, evolution.
True. I'm dumb. I have nothing else to say after that.
Okay, all right. Well, so how many years have you guys been operating now?
Oak and Aether has been in business since early 2019, mid 2019.
The good old days.
The good old days, yeah.
So it's almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years. Yeah. We've been in this space for 3. It has been a slow growth. Actually, we started out much smaller. We shared space with another business at a time, and we've since outgrown and separated from them. But we have been very dedicated to making this, feasible, making this a part of not just our lives. My wife and I and our friends here who tattoo in the studio, but also in Kamloops. Like there's
Were you originally from Kamloops?
No, we're transplants from the Lower Mainland, like half the population of this town. 12 years ago, we realized that the Lower Mainland was just not serving us, and we weren't going to be able to build a sustainable future there. We looked around different cities in the interior, but my wife was able to transfer her work from there. I also, at the time, got a job doing the HVC, part of the HVC mill expansion for the steel company I was working for. And so serendipitously, all the pieces of Kamloops just sort of fit. Plus, we already had relatives here. So it was just kind of like, I guess we're moving to Kamloops. We moved to Kamloops. A year and a half later, we bought our first home, because there's no way in heck we would have been able to do that in the Lower Mainland, even 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we've since downsized from that first home to a smaller home, and that freed up a lot of just our daily overhead that allowed us to change the way we make our living from working for steel and oil and gas companies to working for ourselves and actually trying to live our spiritual practice in our daily life and our work life.
Was it a challenge to sort of carve out a space like this in a place like Kamloops?
Yes and no. It's still an ongoing challenge, obviously, to be a small business owner, especially in this day. But we came to learn pretty quickly that there's like a really healthy sort of underground of alternative spiritual practice and pagan thought, for lack of a better term, in Kamloops. And by wonderful word of mouth, because we've actually never done any advertising at all, by wonderful word of mouth.
Which is great if you can get away with it.
So we've survived 5 years on nothing but people's praises. So for that, I am grateful.
Good location, too. You have a great location.
Thank you. It's downtown, a little off the beaten track, but it's not so far out that, we're avoided. People, once they discover that we're here through that wonderful word of mouth praise, they come back all the time. So that community is discovering us, little by little. I'm sure this will help as well. And then as people sort of find their way into this door, they sort of adopt us and we adopt them in turn. And yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's also, like I said, grateful. There's been a lot of success. I clearly haven't starved to death.
Now, going back to the events you mentioned earlier, do you have, are you aware of any coming up in the new year you want to talk about, or nothing too concrete yet?
Nothing concrete. We had hopes to do a Yule festivity. However, just the way the schedule for December is working out for our families and everything, it's just not feasible this year. So sad face, but there's always another time. For the new year, we do have a couple of irons in the fire, although I don't want to speak too soon, get hopes up. But yes, there are things coming. Sort of a hint, we do have a few ceremonial magic rituals planned, and then just a couple of meditative gatherings that have specific teachings and leanings. But I'm just going to leave it there. As these things become solidified, and once we have dates, we always announce on our social media as well as on our website. If
somebody wants to sort of stay on top of what's happening, following you on Facebook or something like that is the best way to do it, or?
Instagram and Facebook are our two main avenues. In fact, they're the only two social media platforms we operate on. We haven't, maybe a little in the digital dark ages, we haven't adopted all the others just yet.
You can stay off Twitter these days. It's a terrible cesspool.
And you hardly need a web page anymore with Facebook. I think Facebook is so great for networking and getting the word out.
Well, having the web page for us allows us for a greater audience, and then of course a greater clientele.
Web page, oh.
Yeah, we do have a web page.
Web pages are great too. Don't get me wrong.
It's mostly dedicated to our e-commerce. While you will find little bits about the events, you'll always find the tickets for the events on there. The web page is very much our sort of e-commerce avenue. The writings and the newsletters that happen on there are too infrequent to be considered our primary news source and our primary avenue of, hey, look at us. But it's there. Can I plug it? Am I allowed to do that?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's www.oakandaethermetaphysical.com, all one word. Feel free to look at it. We got flat rate shipping, Canada and the United States. Still working on flat rate international shipping. Furthest I've ever sent anything, I've sent 2 items to literally the other side of the world. To
Oh, wow, really?
To Australia, yeah. That has everything to do with the limited and rare literature that I have here. That's.
And how did they find you?
I don't know.
Is it? I would guess maybe they're searching for a specific item that you happen to have. Maybe.
I would think so. So I do carry a lot of limited and rare occult titles, and if you're a serious, investigator and student of this kind of stuff, and you hear about a book that fits what you're looking for, you'll be like, "Well, who's got it?" And I've been lucky a few times. Like there are bigger shops out there and other publishers that, they're much grander than I. But I've been lucky a few times, and I've sent stuff, Australia, the UK, the EU, Malaysia, and it's, I think they found me through forums, through the modest amount of social media, sort of product announcements that we do. Still have never done a paid one. So how they're actually finding me, I don't really know, but yeah, it's working.
What would you say is the most interesting of the sort of rarer or limited pieces that you have right now?
Oh, I didn't think that question would be so hard to answer.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. A lot of what you see directly behind us is all limited. These are usually printed in under 1,000. I am the only retailer, as far as I know, in Western Canada who deals with some of these boutique publishers. There might be 1 or 2 other, but if there are, they have not hit my radar yet, and I don't know if I've hit theirs.
Right.
I have books in here that are as limited as there's only been 22 of them printed. So to say which one, that's a hard nail to hit for sure. But all of these.
But what it would be like maybe your favorite, or the one that you think is the most interesting or unique?
So on a personal note, personal anecdote, the Norse Otherworld series. It's a 3-volume series, and it's authored by Shawnee Oates, and it's published by Anathema Press. It's based out of Quebec, nice little Canadian publisher. That has been really fascinating for me. I favor Norse heathenry in my personal life, and her investigations and expose on the scope of it, particularly around the godhead of Odin and his formation and evolution into modern spiritual thoughts, has been really, really cool. Really cool. So there's that. And then another couple of books also by Anathema Press, published by Anathema Press, were Aurora and Iao. These 2 books are Gnostic philosophy, which is a form of Christian mysticism, Christian Judeo-mysticism. These 2 books, masterfully written. They read like poetry, and the art that is in them is incredible, absolutely incredible. Now, I don't want my personal favorites to detract from any of the other
of course not.
publishers that are up here. Another one of note, again, a completely different sort of schema of occult thought, is the Black Dragon series by Peter Hampton Giles out of Atramentus Press in the UK. Just started to really get into that. Fascinating work. It follows chthonic sorcery, I guess, would be a way to sort of generalize it.
Sure, yeah.
Dark magic, if you will, but not actually. It's more an observance of the shadow, if that makes more sense. So yeah, those are some of the really cool ones that I've just that have come under my radar, that I've either read or have started to read, and I'm like, yeah. I do my best to read everything that I carry, although my to-do list often outweighs my have-done list, because it does just come in. But all of the books that I provide here in the shop, even if I haven't read them, I'm usually very familiar with the author's work or the school that they're working from, the school of thought they're working from. I don't like to offer people too much sort of repetitious standard fare. While yes, I like to have beginner books and introductory books here in the shop, I want them to be thoughtful and actually provide solid foundationary information that can lead someone to, more advanced work and more advanced teachings later.
But I imagine it's got to be hard for you to, suggest a direction for somebody or suggest a book for somebody unless you're already familiar with it.
That's why I do my best to either keep in authors that I either know or know of through my other readings, as well as knowing the school of thought and sort of work in which they come from, right? If I can speak to where they're taking their knowledge from and how they're presenting it, even if I haven't read their specific work, then that I feel at least is some kind of validity in my offerance. Obviously, I will do my best to find something that I can really speak on from a personal level. And I also do my best to make sure that I'm reading all thought forms here. I don't like to restrict myself to just one school. Never have. While, yes, I have my own personal practice and inclinations, I would be a very dry person if I just kind of kept to the one section, the one thought.
Because to an extent, it is like the pursuit of knowledge or the pursuit of understanding, the pursuit of truth, or
It is very much the pursuit of the evolution of consciousness, right? That's what all of this is. This is all the elevation and evolution of personal consciousness and, of course, universal consciousness. How you exemplify that and how you adopt that into your life, that's up for the individual. But all of these things, everything written, it's all someone's idea of the bigger picture and how that applies to our daily life.
Wow, that would have been a great place to end, but we got 10 minutes left.
Oh, nothing. I'm hungry.
Me too. I skipped breakfast this
Yeah, we're all hungry right now. We're all just sitting here wishing we could be having a sandwich or something. Nice little.
I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
But you craft with bones, I hear.
Yes.
What? That's crazy.
Well, I thought you might
I'm-
answer.
I haven't held this all day.
Okay. Would you like to swap seats so you can be the interview
No, it's
person?
okay. Can you tell us about your bone art?
Yeah. It's nothing too fancy. It's really not. I will go for walks in the forest. I will find bones. I will bring them home. I will clean them up.
How do you clean them up?
A bucket of water and dish soap. Oh, God, no. No. Ooh, So a bucket of water and dish soap for the first little bit of while to act as a degreaser. I use a 5-gallon pail. I'll fill up as much as I can in the pail of bones, and then the rest water. And then I don't think I can say the name of the brand of dish soap I use. It's blue. We'll just leave it there, and I use about a half a bottle. Because you want to really draw out any of the bacterium and grease, the marrow that's trapped inside the bone. And then I leave it in there for weeks, sometimes months, really depending on the specimen, how large it is. Once that's finished, then I pour the water out into my garden. Dish soap doesn't hurt the garden, and all that bacterium of flesh and rotten decay gets processed in, and some people may think it's gross, but it's honestly, my vegetables are really healthy. It's a good food. And no, you don't taste it.
You don't use bleach?
So in my whitening process, I don't use bleach, and that's because it harms the enamel on the bone. I'll use a water and peroxide dilution, 50-50, 50% water, 50% hydrogen peroxide. I use a 3% hydrogen peroxide. And depending on the length of time it will need to be in that bucket, and I do keep a lid on it, peroxide over time will lose its oxidative properties because off gases, so we try to keep it in the bucket with a little vent on it. I might add a tablespoon or so of borax, but not too much because borax is essentially a bleach and it can harm the enamel on the bone. And then,
That's what I do. I just bleach.
It works. Like, it works. I just, and when I first started doing it, like, I used bleach too. Like, I was like, how do you whiten things? Bleach!
Yeah.
And then I started haunting some taxidermist forums and stuff like that, trying to pick up tricks of the trade just because, it's a personal craft that I just kind of like to indulge in. And I learned some degreasing and whitening tricks that just help the bone, help its longevity, its preservation. And
Even it sitting outside in the sun helps.
yes.
bleach.
Yeah, but it's going to take very long.
Yeah.
It's going to take very long to do that. Even if you've like done a good degreasing and a good scrubbing, and there's like nothing left on the bone itself, sun bleaching takes sometimes a full year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So and then UV rays, particularly here in Kamloops, like the Thompson Okanagan,
Right.
we're a high UV area.
Yeah.
That is also bad for the bone.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
it's it's you
Interesting.
do what you got to do to get your craft out there. But for me, no, I like water degreasing, maceration, and then hydrogen peroxide and water for my whitening. Maybe in a 5 or 5 gallon pail, like a tablespoon or so of borax, so a very low amount, mixed in with the hydrogen peroxide. It seems to work just fine.
And you sell the bones as is, or?
Depending, obviously, the animal type determines whether or not I'm allowed to sell it.
Oh, what are you not allowed?
Ungulates, hard no. Birds, hard no.
Why?
Conservation, Canada Conservation, there are laws on animal specimens and whether or not they are allowed to be put into the economy for monetary trade. Now, certain bone types, if it's just like a scavenged vertebrae or something, you can turn it into art and sell art, but to sell raw bones or fur of any kind, no, you need a taxidermist license. You need, there's paperwork that's got to be filed. I'm very much an amateur. I don't have that as a business. So when I do find things that are not sellable, I keep them for myself, and I go through the processes to basically like hone my craft.
And mention you can't go on native land and just.
No, absolutely not. If you're going to be hiking and you do happen to find something scavenging, make sure that you are not on, First Nations territory. And even provincial and federal parks too. Like, be really careful what you pull out of there. If it's like open crown land, it's up for grabs. Whether or not you can turn it into monetary value afterwards, well, that really depends on the animal specimen. So definitely, if you're doing that as a form of income, learn the rules, learn the laws. I fully support hunting and taxidermy and preservation work as a form of living. But we need to follow the rules to prevent acts of poaching and other, sort of wrongful doers. Like we don't want to give avenues of success to those who mean ill. So cooperation with all of the Canadian standards and laws in regards to these things is a must if you're going to turn that into a part of your income. Now, as far as the bone work that I've done and sold here goes, very, very little, and it's normally because it's coming from my hunter friends, and they have to provide me with their tag of harvest, and I keep that when I have it. Usually make a photocopy for the purchaser, something like that, but more often than not, I'll find like rib bones or vertebrae of cows. Like that's the most common thing I find, and then the chandelier that you can't see that's on camera or can't see on the camera, and I turn those things into either runes or little bits of bone jewelry, or actually that one was my wife's creation. I was more just she made that. I just did the dirty work.
I want her as my wife.
I just did the dirty work, but you turn these things into art.
So those are all cow bones, you say?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly.
With moss?
Yeah, there's some moss, there's mugwort, there's a few different, I guess you could say witchy herbs crafted into the wreath around the iron frame there.
Wow.
There's...
Do you know how many hours that took?
I don't really know. Cleaning-wise, like the degreasing and the whitening process took a long time. but I don't really count that as work because it's passive. Like it literally sits in buckets. The amount of physical work in the scrubbing aspect and the drilling of the holes and stuff, maybe like 3-4 hours. And then as far as the harvesting of the herbs and the drying of the herbs, the crafting of the wreath, all that stuff, I don't remember how much time Jill put into that. I know that I stood there holding things in different positions for her for a few hours in the final process. So I don't know, I'm going to say maybe like 15 or 20 hours went into that in total.
Wow.
That's just my guess.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, conservatively 20 maybe.
So we're almost out of time. Do you want to say hi to your mom and dad? Or your baby?
My daughter Salem.
Good name.
Yeah, thank you. How could she have witchy parents and not get a witchy name, right? Like, yeah. So my wife Jill, who's at home with my daughter Salem. Hi, love you. Say hi to my dad. I don't think he'll ever see this. He's not really tech savvy. Doesn't really get on YouTube much. But what's up, Dad? Ed. And that's kind of it. Maybe my mother-in-law Judy. She lives. Actually, she might be at my house with my wife and daughter right now. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of personal shout-outs out there.
Fine.
Can you say something funny or even tell a joke? Because you are a dad. You must have one dad joke for us.
I don't, actually. I've been trying to bank them, but like, it's like it goes in and then it's out. It's clearly not a vault that I have access to yet.
I'll share one of my favorite dad jokes with you then as we close out this episode. First of all, thank you for hanging out with us for the last hour and giving us a bit of a tour of your shop. It's been lovely. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy to have you. This was really nice. I don't know how we caught your interest, but I'm glad we did.
Well, I did grow up in the Satanic Panic and had an interest in all things occult at that time, and it never really left me. So it was interesting to me that something of this nature popped up in Kamloops. That's literally how it caught my interest.
No, we're here, and while I do have really quality literature on satanic thought, we are not a house of Satanism.
Which is, that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against you.
Yeah, I realize for some it's probably very exciting, but it's like, nah. Now we're a little different. But yeah, it's I'm happy that we caught your radar. I'm happy that we're in Kamloops and that there is a culture and a tribe of people who are supporting us.
Kamloops is happy to have you guys because this is a very unique shop. We don't have anything like this in town. I don't think.
Not really, no. I mean, we have this.
Yeah.
This. And now for the dad joke. What is brown and sticky?
Oh, no. It's not baby poop, I'm assuming. Okay. What do you got?
A stick.
That is very much a dad joke.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next time.